While I was at work, I got a surprising email. I quickly called Greg to find out what was going on, and he calmly said, "Oh, sorry about this. I've fallen for someone else and want to start a new life with her." Then, Greg told me he was taking the camper van we just bought on a loan, in my name. I begged him to reconsider, but he ignored me, hung up, and stopped answering my calls. In the end, Greg ran off with his mistress, leaving me to handle the huge loan by myself. I never thought my life would take such a turn. As a 35-year-old mom to a bright 10-year-old boy, Ryan, I felt lost and overwhelmed. Ryan is a smart and curious kid who amazes me with his ideas, but Greg, my husband, was always unstable, bouncing between jobs. Even though I had a full-time job and worried about our future, Greg finally managed to keep steady work for 3 years. Recently, Greg had talked a lot about creating special memories as a family. He convinced me we should buy a $35,000 camper van. Since he couldn't get approved for the loan, I had to take it in my name. On the day the van was supposed to arrive, I got Greg's shocking email. He said he'd take the van and leave me with the loan payments. When I called him, he admitted, "I've fallen in love with someone else and want to start over with her. What started as a fling became serious, so, this is goodbye." He also mentioned divorce papers and hung up, leaving me heartbroken and alone to deal with everything. This was the first time I truly felt Greg's betrayal. It hit me hard. I kept trying to contact him, but he never answered. When I got home from work, I checked the drawer where we kept the divorce papers. They were gone. Now, I was left with a $35,000 car loan and no way to reach Greg. I sent him emails and called over and over, but he never replied. Ryan, my 10-year-old son, noticed something was wrong. After dinner, he came to me with concern in his voice. "Mom, are you okay? You haven't been eating much lately." I tried to brush it off. "Oh, I'm fine, maybe just tired." Ryan tilted his head and said, "When people lie, they look up to the right. Lying isn't good, and I've noticed Dad hasn't been home for 3 days. Did something happen?" His sharp observation caught me off guard. I took a deep breath and decided I couldn't hide it anymore. I told him everything. Ryan listened quietly and then said, "I see. That sounds like something Dad would do. Aren't you sad?" I nodded, but he continued, "I kind of already knew. It seemed like things were heading this way." Even though Ryan appeared calm, I knew he must be hurting deep inside. Silently, I apologized to him in my heart. I threw myself into work to keep my mind off everything, but my body began to show signs of stress. I felt weaker each day, and eventually, it caught up with me. One day during a training session at work, I couldn't stay on my feet. I squatted down and said, "Sorry, I can't stand up right now. I need a break." My coworkers rushed over, worried, but I couldn't respond. I collapsed. When I woke up, I was lying in a hospital bed. The doctor told me I needed more tests and admitted me to the hospital. I feel so pathetic, I thought. This is supposed to be just emotional stress. Lying on the hospital bed, with N4 in my arm and the white ceiling above me, tears began to flow. Just then, Ryan rushed into the room, looking more worried than I'd ever seen him. I quickly wiped my tears. "Mom, what happened? Is it serious? You're not going to die, right?" "Of course not," I reassured him. I'd never leave my sweet son alone. "Ah, that's good. Really, I was so scared. My teacher said you were taken to the hospital, and my heart almost stopped." Ryan, usually so mature for his age, reminded me that he was still just a 10-year-old boy. His concern gave me strength. I resolved to recover for his sake. But my health was worse than I expected. The doctor told me I needed surgery right away. After thinking it over, I agreed to the operation. When I was finally discharged, a month had passed since Greg left. Coming home, I opened the mailbox and found a demand letter for the car loan payment. That's strange, I thought. The payments should have been taken directly from my account. Panicking, I used my card to check my bank balance. The $20,000 I'd saved was gone. Only $33.90 was left. Greg did this, I realized. He took everything, but I can't even contact him. What do I do now? Without the camper van, I couldn't sell it to repay the loan. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Sitting in despair, Ryan came over and gently touched my forehead. "You look pale, Mom. Are you feeling sick again? You don't seem to have a fever." "I'm fine," I said, though my voice was shaky. "But, your dad didn't just take the car. He took all our money too. I can't work because of my health, and now we're left with nothing. I don't know what to do. Ryan looked thoughtful. Then he said, I'll start delivering newspapers, and I'll look online for things I can do to help. His words gave me hope. If my 10-year-old son could stay strong, then so could I. It wasn't the time to give up. Sorry for worrying you, Ryan, I said, smiling at him. I can't afford to be weak. I'll change my mindset and do what I can. Ryan smiled back and then said something surprising. Let's plan how to get the car back from Dad. Get the car back? How? The camper van is in your name, right? Yes, but what does that mean? Well, maybe we can. Ryan suggested something I hadn't even considered. I couldn't believe he had thought of it. I don't even know where your father is. We can check my phone. A month ago, when we went hiking, Ryan had gotten lost, so we bought him a kid's phone with a GPS app that both Greg and I could track. This app lets me see where Dad is in real time. He's been moving a lot. That's great, but what if we find him and he just says something vague and runs away again? Ryan smiled and said, Don't worry, I've already taken care of that. What do you mean? To my surprise, Ryan had done something amazing while I was in the hospital. I can't believe this clever child is mine, I thought. He had even discovered where Greg's mistress was. All right, I said, let's teach Dad a lesson for betraying us. Okay, let's start right away. Together, Ryan and I made a plan. With Ryan by my side, I feel unstoppable. Let's do this, I thought. 3 days later, my phone rang. Hey, it's me, please help me. Who's this? Don't act dumb, it's your husband. The police are questioning me about you, and they might even ask me to go to the station. Help me out. I paused. I'll be right there. I took Ryan and went to where Greg was. To my surprise, he was in a forest park near our house, talking to the police. He looked confused and worried. Feeling defeated, I sighed and said to the police, We need to talk privately as a couple. Can you give us a moment? Greg looked uncomfortable with everyone watching us and urged Ryan and me to get into the car. Inside, his mistress was sitting, glaring at us, but I wasn't focused on her. Sorry you had to come, Greg said, but why did the police suddenly show up at my place? I don't get it. I filed a report about the missing camper van, I said. What? Why? Because it's my car that was stolen. Greg didn't understand and kept saying ridiculous things, thinking spouses couldn't commit crimes. The world isn't that naive, I replied. You filed for divorce, remember? We're strangers now, and driving a stranger's car without permission is a crime. Ryan had figured all this out, sharp as ever. I didn't steal it, I just borrowed it, Greg said. Really? I asked. Well, I'd like to use my car now, can you return it? As I reached out for the keys, Greg reluctantly handed them over. After the camper van was returned, Ryan quietly spoke up. Why did you leave your family and start messing around with this woman? Greg was caught off guard by his son's question. He awkwardly scratched his head. His mistress, Mandy, smirked and spoke up. It's because I'm more attractive than your mother. Look at me, can't you see? He fell for me and left his family for me. Quiet. I didn't ask you, old lady, Ryan snapped. Dad, you answer. Mandy was silent from Ryan's sharp words, but Greg stayed quiet. If you can't explain, that's fine. I'll just have the police come back and arrest you, Ryan threatened. Wait. Okay, I'll talk. Greg explained that Mandy had started working at his company 3 months ago. They hit it off at the new employee welcome party. Later, they found out she was pregnant, and Greg decided to leave us and start a new life with her. Why did you take the camper van? Ryan asked. I quit my job and thought about selling it for money. But I saw you were using it a lot, so I didn't want to sell it right away. We decided to go on a trip instead. Wait, how do you know all this? Remember when Ryan got lost? After that, we bought him a kid's phone with a GPS app on it. We installed it on your phone too. So, I knew where you were all this time. I later found out that Ryan had pretended to get lost during our family hike because he wanted a cell phone. I was amazed at how clever and strategic he was. I thought something was off with Dad, so I came up with this plan to track him, Ryan explained. You're a scary kid, Greg said. I'll never be like you when I grow up. Greg, hearing his son speak so truthfully, couldn't respond. He seemed pitiful, while Ryan, just 10 years old, showed such maturity. I felt proud of my son and knew I couldn't lose this fight, especially when it came to making things right. Also, return the $20,000 you took from my account right now. That money was joint property. I don't have to give it back. No, it's not. That money was from what I saved little by little, before we were even together. You always quit jobs early, so we never saved money together. I was shocked to hear that Greg had spent the $20,000 with his mistress. It made me feel better about divorcing him. So that's how it is, I said. But if you stole my car and my money, that's a serious crime. What? I just sent the police away. It's not their business anymore, right? Greg said, confused. I only said we would talk. I'm not taking back the complaint. I'll add the theft of my money to the report. Mom, should I call the police now? I can do it with just one button on my phone, Ryan said calmly. Mandy had been quietly watching us, but when she saw her parents standing outside the car, furious, she screamed in shock. I'm sorry. Why are you here, Mom and Dad? She asked, startled. I called your parents earlier, I said. What? Why? When I was in the hospital, Ryan had gone to Greg's office and tearfully told them, my dad left with a woman we don't know, and my mom collapsed. The people at the office, seeing how upset Ryan was, figured out who Mandy was and gave him her parents' address. Greg and Mandy had been very close at work, and there were photos of them together at the new employee party. I went to your parents' house with your photo. They came out when I knocked on their door, and I told them everything. Today, I asked them to wait nearby for a while, I explained. Mandy was in shock. How could you do this to me? You're the worst. I don't want to hear that from you, I said. That's my line. By the way, your stomach looks big. When is the baby due? In 3 months, Mandy answered. What? That doesn't make sense. You and my husband met only 3 months ago. What's going on? It's not time for the baby to be born yet, Mandy replied. Greg, hearing this for the first time, stared at Mandy, wide-eyed. Wait, what does that mean? Are you dumb? Don't you get it? It takes 9 months for a baby to be born, so the baby she's carrying isn't yours. Greg was shocked. What? Mandy, have you been lying to me? Leaving me? I almost got away with it. Too bad I'm caught now. You're so naive, you can't see through lies. Really, a fool. Don't mock me. You've ruined my life. What were you thinking? Greg and Mandy started arguing loudly, but no one stepped in to stop them. Meanwhile, we called the police again to explain everything. As it got dark, the forest park was lit up by the flashing red lights of the police cars. No, really, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. I'll work hard and never cheat again. Please don't arrest me. Greg pleaded. Dad, people don't change easily, especially lazy people like you, Ryan said. That's right, I added. Ryan's right. I can't trust you. You need to face what you've done and pay for your actions at the police station. If I get arrested, I won't be able to pay back the money. Is that okay with you? Greg asked. I don't mind. Pay me back after you've paid for your crimes. Take your time. I've already found you a job. Let's see, there's Ryan's child support plus the $20,000 you took from me. I'm not sure how much that all adds up to, but you'll work and pay it back. I turned to Mandy, the mistress. You might think you're just an innocent bystander, but you're an accomplice in Greg's theft. You'll be responsible for it too. Mandy trembled at the thought of paying for the stolen money. She asked her parents for help, but they refused, saying, we disown a daughter who causes trouble for others. In the end, Greg and Mandy were taken away in a police car together. Thanks to Ryan's clever plan, we were able to hold Greg and Mandy accountable. Although they were released from detention soon after, they had to pay me back a large sum. I used a lawyer to claim the $20,000 in damages and made Greg agree to pay $500 a month in child support for Ryan. I also helped Greg find a job at a subcontracting factory where I work. The money he owed would be taken from his salary and paid into my account. I sold the camper van and was free from the car loan. Since then, my health has improved greatly, and I'm full of energy and focused on my job. Ryan has been a big help with the household chores and running errands. I want to keep moving forward, strong and determined, so that Ryan can follow the path he loves without any obstacles.